anyị na Chineke na nke pụrụ ihe niile onye ọ bụ naanị ya na-azọpụta onye ọ bụ naanị ya bụ okwu ya niile bụ ihe na amen anyị wee na-asị ezi ebube dị ngọzi na n'ụtụtụ na ịja mma na nsọpụrụ site n'ebighị ebi ma ruo n'ebighị ise ise ise.
Welcome, my amazing viewers. Thank you so much for joining me on my program once again. I appreciate you wherever you are joining from. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please kindly subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell so that you'll be notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you so much and remain blessed. If you are joining me from Africa, Asia, Europe, America, Australia, or any part of the world, I thank you very much for your contribution. Please, each time you watch my video, go to the comment section and put down your comment. That is.
Well, let me talk about the plan by Nigeria to stop importing petroleum products by mid-2023, and the attempt or by the moves by the NNPC and the federal government to also stop. Is it theft now? Crude oil theft and all that. You know, well, that's good news coming from the NNPC chief executive. And I hope that by then the Dangote refineries would have been in operation and been able to stop importations. I'm sure by that, Nigerians will be able to save enough foreign currencies that we use to import fuel almost on a monthly basis or on a daily basis. And that of the crude oil theft, I listened to the chief of naval staff yesterday. Is one of the network. Where he was sort of saying that if we are looking for the crude oil theft, we should go to the big NNPC, the staff of NNPC. And that was the summary of what I got from him yesterday. And that what they talk about sometimes would be very impossible for Nigerians to believe. And as somebody who is the chief of naval staff, somebody that is charged with that responsibility of safeguarding our maritime, I think he's in a better position to speak on that issues authoritatively. And I was impressed with what he said yesterday. And he gave an example, he gave an example that in the official badge, in the oil badge in the sea, sometimes they've arrested government officials, NNPC officials, that were loading crude oil without the necessary documentations. Which means that the same people who are complaining, who are designing framework for us to tackle oil theft, are the ones stealing the crude oil. And that was the summary of what I got from your man yesterday. And so that when we are talking about the framework, the legal work, the security network to solve some of this problem, we should also take into considerations the criminal activities of these people that the chief of naval staff talked about yesterday. So Nigeria is a very funny country. People who come on air to shout about crude oil theft are the same people, from the way the man spoke yesterday, are the same people who are stealing the oil. You know, at the end of the day, and rather than allowing the security agencies to look at the appropriate way to deal with the issues, they try to divert people's attention by blaming it on the community, the militants. I'm not saying that there might be some of attempt by the communities and some militants to get themselves involved in that activities. But from the way Chief of Naval Staff explained yesterday, it became obvious to me that the major culprit in this oil theft are the civil servants, are the top officials of the NNPC, with some collaboration of foreign interests and some security agencies. And Kerry is also referring to mosques and churches and I don't know whether they store crude oil in the mosques, in the churches and mosques. You know, I think I can't make sense in what he's saying. But I'm saying that from what I got from the chief of naval staff yesterday, we should not look any other way. We should look at the NNPCs themselves, the civil servant, and with the collaboration of some dirty security chiefs who are involved in this thing. I think that's what I picked from the chief of naval staff interview yesterday in one of the national network.
All right, Iko, let's look at some political stories. There are two interesting ones here on this day. One is the crowdfunding aspect. Nigerians in diaspora to move to raise $150 million 100 billion for Obi. And then bottom page, you see Tinubu, Shetima, APC Governor Vincent Jonathan. What are they looking for again? So you see the disparity in the story. So let's go with the first one.
Okay, well, this morning, before I deal with those issues, I would like to commend Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, who turned 70, you know. Nigerians will not forget his role in society. He's been doing a lot for Nigerians, speaking truth to power, you know, and doing a lot. And he's talking about raising over 200 million naira to set up leadership. So that is the way to go. I think we need more Nigerians at this point offering selfless service. And of course, my own state, Delta State, in June, we know the political stalemate that happened in Delta when the High Court nullified the candidature of the PDP candidate, Sheriff Oborewori, and just on Monday, the appeal court in Abuja delivered a landmark judgment restoring him as the PDP candidate. I think I'm congratulating Delta this morning because they were able to maintain peace for the period of over 2 months. That almost threw the state in crisis. As president of the Okpe People's Forum, I issued a statement yesterday actually congratulating Deltans and our people, Okpe people and all that. So back to this issue, you know, if you look at the photograph on the front page of this day, you know, politicians have a way of cooking up all kinds of intrigues. Yeah. This is an interesting optic. You see, Jonathan had been quiet after the initial speculation that he was, they were weighing him to
be or not to be.
Yes, whether he was going to be the candidate of the APC. And they are all brimming with smiles. Who knows what they've discussed again? And who knows what, you know.
What are they cooking again?
You can never, it's a fantastic, you know.
Caption for the story.
For the photograph, you know. They must have said something that make all of them smile. And in Jonathan, you can't ever read what goes on in his mind.
No, never.
It's just calm. It belongs to everyone and to nobody, you know.
Unassuming.
Yeah, so very unassuming. Well, I think Nigerians now appreciate his role, what he did for Nigerians as president. They now appreciate the fact that he must have dealt with a lot whilst he was president. And the interesting aspect, each time I see APC people going to Jonathan, I just laugh. I knew the extent at which they vilified him. You know, once the APC took over, everything that has to do with their own personal failure, they blamed it on the former president, Jonathan. So at some point, he allegedly stole all the money, so they didn't have money to work. And then, Jonathan mismanaged the military, the security situation. 7 years on, I think after the first 4 years, Nigerians just simply got tired. They just knew, they saw through the ruling party that these guys have nothing to, apparently maybe they have nothing to offer. Now, Jonathan is their best friend. They go to him every time. And that's it. That's the way of politicians. So maybe in the next few days. What did you say?
I said the Georgia
yes,
it suits them.
But you see, the lesson in this is that going ahead, looking onto the 2023 general elections, Nigerians must be very careful. For people who are planning to kill themselves over these politicians and the political class, they have to be extremely very careful because these individuals, these are the ruling elites. Sometimes I call them the ruling oppressors. They really have no permanent enemy. They have permanent interest. It cuts across political divides. When it suits them, they move from the APC to the PDP, from the PDP to the AP. So they cross carpet, and they are just comfortable with it, and then you can see them smiling. They are happy. So you can't see PDP or APC here, or Labour Party or NNPP or whatever party that is there. Now to the Peter Obi issue, the Labour Party, you know, how Nigerians in diaspora intend to raise about $150 million. I see the Peter Obi candidature as a presidential candidate of the Labour Party as some kind of a brewing political revolution. I do not know whether people see that, but each time I see people marching on the state capitals for him, something in me begins to think aloud that, look, something could just be up by 2023. I hope we are not going to experience an upset in 2023. But there are people who easily dismiss him that, oh, these are social media ranters. They are ranting and nothing is going to happen on election day. But if you weigh that against the backdrop of the frustration of millions of Nigerian youths who are determined to take their destiny in their own hands, then nobody should dismiss this brewing, what I call political revolution. It's interesting because before now, there is the talk about the third force. You know, people were trying to look beyond the APC, the PDP, and then they were looking at how can we have somebody who can just stir up something that will give hope to Nigerians. Maybe he symbolizes that and represents that. We'll wait to see what happens. Atiku is a factor, it's a big factor, whether anybody likes it or not. He's seen it all. He was vice president of this country for 8 years. A big businessman who has also seen it. He has tasted power. He has enormous connections within and outside the country. And of course, the APC candidate too, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So these are heavyweights in their own right. But I'm sure Nigerians will decide next year the direction for which we will go. But what the media is looking at now is they're actually evaluating, you know, the candidates as they are. You know, they are reporting the upsurge, whether in financials, whether it's in capacity and competence. They're opening the space for Nigerians to decide what happens.
And also setting an agenda ahead of 2023 general election. But let's look at the president's speech, really. Let's not wave over that. Let's interrogate what he says, that nobody would use personal gains to, you know, intimidate others during these 2023 elections. And then there's an, you know, should I call a rider there that, you know, is until 2023 that Nigerians would know what the APC has done. You know why I'm bringing this up, referring to what you said about Jonathan, you know, that it was not until now that people may have noticed that he may have seen a lot and dealt with a lot while in government. You want to take that up, Yoposa?
Well, for me, that statement sounds very funny to me, saying that he will not allow the money back, you know, to intimidate the electorate or to intimidate the federal government in 2023 general elections. The truth of the matter is that where are the money bags? Many of them are in government. So if there is any political parties that people believe will use their funds, use the federal government or the state funds or local government funds to intimidate the public, it is a ruling party. Well, that is the perceptions out there. And of course, they have so much money. They control the resources, the financial resources, and they were able to use that to intimidate the electorate. You are aware of the allegation by Ned Nwoko recently that part of the money of the looted funds, part of the money when they were negotiating for a court from the commission he got, was that they were going to use it for election, for APC election and all that. You know, so that is my concern. So, like, the president of Nigeria, for example, is not making anything. He's just entertaining himself, as far as I'm concerned, because if you look at the candidate, apart from Atiku Abubakar, other candidates, I don't think they have that kind of money that the APCs will be able to gather for the elections. As for Peter Obi, the move by the people in diaspora, Nigerian diaspora, to raise money for him, you know, it suggests that when Nigerians believe in you, you know, they can go to any length to actually, you know, do everything to support you.
Yeah. Not waiting for what they will get from you.
Exactly. And that's exactly what the obedient, so-called obedients, have been doing in the last few months. If you go to various states where they're organizing rally for Peter Obi, sometimes they contribute money.
Yes, they donate.
They donate money to that cause. So if we also look at, I was also reliably informed that the trip, the Obi trip to abroad recently, I mean, was funded by people who invited him. They pay for his ticket, they pay for his hotel, and all the events that they organized for him that we are paid for by Nigerians, because they are tired. We are tired with the current system, and they are looking for that person, right? That person that they can trust, that person that they believe will be able to right the wrong of the last 7.5 years. Because the present economic situations we are in this country today, it will take us another years, decades to be able to recover from it. And if we must start from somewhere, Nigerians is looking for that person that is very sincere, that is very honest, that is not corrupt, that believe in Nigeria, you know. And if you look at the activities, the political activities, the unfolding political activities, Nigeria appear to be saying, look, we have looked at all the candidates, you know, in spite of their credentials. We have looked at all the candidates. Yes, they are good. They've been in power. They've done so much while they were in power. But this time around, we are looking for a very honest, accepted person.
And the worry of many Nigerians,
that narrative of how do we change Nigeria.
The worry of many Nigerians is the fact that, you know, it seems good when you are campaigning or when you're aspiring to get into an office, but when you get in there, it becomes a different ball game. You were saying earlier that maybe Nigerians are beginning to understand that Jonathan may have seen a lot. So outside there, outside government, outside Asorock, it looks like it's, you know, a very easy job to do until you get in, just like we've seen even with this administration that people are complaining about. So how do we draw the line between these two at the end of the day?
I think the problem really is that over time we have seen individuals who get into office unprepared. You know, either unprepared mentally or unprepared professionally. They don't have the necessary leadership skills, you know, to understand the dynamics of office, the vagaries, you know, and then to drive leadership competition with the rest of the world. So I think that has been a challenge. I will quickly want to also speak on the president's speech where he said he was not going to allow money bags, you know, to use their money to influence the outcome of the 2023 elections and all those kind of comments. I think these are just theatrics in the absurd, you know. The president first, I think he has to deal with allegations that he has appointed members of the APC into the Independent National Electoral Commission. That is very important. Nigerians will not lose sight of that. If you want a credible, free, fair, and transparent electoral process, you as the president must be seen as walking the talk, as taking certain steps, you know, to guarantee, to instill hope, to imbue hope in Nigerians, or even in the international community. There is a pending allegation, and indeed that should require the interest of the president to deal with that issue. If indeed card-carrying members or people who are sympathetic to the ruling APC have been appointed as national commissioners in the Independent National Electoral Commission, that is a serious matter that the president must first deal with before he makes this kind of comment about money bags influencing. Yes, I give it to him. Since he became president, he has not been overtly seen as interfering in the electoral process. Everybody would give him to the president, but that whether behind he does that, I'm not sure anybody has any proof. But what we see, what is before us, is that there are very clear and obvious allegations that people who are partisan in nature are being appointed to oversee the electoral process. That is, for me, is very challenging, and it has to be dealt with by the president.
All right, maybe we'll discuss this issue of the NCAA talking about withdrawing licenses for some planes. So, but in the meantime, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being on the show. Thank you, and thank you, Yobusa. See you again soon.
Thank you.
All right, we take a moment, and when we come back from this time, I will be looking at the African, traditional medicine day, which Nigeria is joining the rest of the world to mark today, the 31st of August, 2022. We'll be looking at a whole lot of issue, how progress have been made in the last 2 decades of this day being marked. And we have 2 gentlemen in the studio who will be helping us to analyze this issue and look at the integral part or the role the traditional medicine plays in the health and well-being of African people. We have Titus Tele, who is a director of Department of Traditional Complementary and Alternative Medicine in the Federal Ministry of Health, seated right here in the studio, of course, to help us analyze these issues. We also have someone else, Beatrice Freeman, who is also of the Department of Traditional Complementary and Alternative Medicine. He is the head of administration, also in the Federal Ministry of Health. They'll be helping us to look at this day and what it portends for Africa when we join them in a moment.
Stay with us. Well, thank you for staying with us. We told you earlier that we will be starting our first conversation right here. And we're looking at the African traditional medicine, which is marked on the 31st of August every year in the past 2 decades to honor, of course, the integral role of traditional medicine in the world and in the health and welfare of generations of people across the continent. And it's interesting that the theme for this year is also 2 decades of African Traditional Medicine Day. Progress towards achieving universal health coverage in Africa. Colleague?
All right, we have 2 gentlemen here who will be helping us to look at these issues as Nigeria joins the rest of the world to mark this day. We have a director in the Department of Traditional, Complementary and Alternative Medicine, the Federal Ministry of Health, Titus Tile, who is a pharmacist as well, right here in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Also with us here is the head of administration of the same department in the Federal Ministry of Health, Beatrice Freeman. Beatrice, a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having us.
All
Good
right.
to have you.
So, first question, let it go to the director.
Okay.
First, tell us what this day is all about. When people hear traditional medicine, sometimes it is difficult to understand what exactly that means. Does it mean herbal treatment? Does it mean using medicinal plants, or does it mean something else?
Thank you so much. And first of all, let me thank the media, especially AIT, for always, every year, trying to help us to promote what we are doing in Federal Ministry of Health concerning traditional medicine. Yeah, traditional medicine is medicine. It's indigenous medicine, medicine of the people. And you can agree with me that it existed before man. You recall that God created the plants before man. And these plants have medicinal value. And it is clear that God has planned for us before bringing us into being. So traditional medicine is something that is indigenous to you. Something that is indigenous to you is your tradition. Just like we have traditional dance, traditional dress, traditional marriage, all these ones. So that is how tradition is. But then there are many aspects of it, of traditional medicine. There is herbal medicine, there is bone setting. You know, there are so many branches of traditional medicine.
Absolutely.
And traditional medicine in Nigeria, once it's exported out, to them, it becomes complementary. It's just like we import some traditional medicines, and then when we are practicing them here, we call them complementary and alternative medicine. Example, acupuncture, which is traditional to Chinese. They call it traditional Chinese medicine. But here we are practicing it as complementary and alternative medicine. So that is what traditional medicine is all about. It is knowledge that people were endowed with by the Almighty God, together with their practices that was developed, which has been used as forms of healthcare. And you agree with me that WHO has promoted this. In fact, WHO recognizes the 3 systems, which is orthodox, traditional medicine, and complementary and alternative medicine. And we in the ministry, we have taken upon ourselves to develop all these 3 systems. And of course, you agree that before you can talk of achieving universal health coverage, you have to bring in these 2 and develop them, because these are the healthcare services that are right with the people in the urban and in the rural areas. And the practitioners are everywhere in the villages. So I think that is why the Ministry of Health is always coming up to promote traditional and complementary medicine.
All right, let me bring in Beatrice here. When my colleague and I, just before the program, we're trying to find out, because he just mentioned that there are different aspects of traditional medicine. And looking at the Traditional Medicine Day, I think started in 2003,
Yeah.
but it says that 80% of the continent depends on tradition.
Thank you so much for your patience to watch from the beginning to the end. I hope you have learned something from the video you have just watched. The video you have just watched is to bring information to your doorstep and for educational purpose. It is not to demonize anybody. Let us watch continuously and see who can be able to make a sense out of every nonsense we are seeing. We must continue. We move. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what they say. They will kill us. We will kill them. At the end of the day, Biafra is here. Thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please kindly subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so that you're notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you and remember blessed. Bye-bye. See you again.